Hello and good morning. I'm your host, Ed Katashabe. You're watching Traders Next Door, and here is the latest scoop. U.S. stocks and indices have been rallying hard over the last couple weeks. The S&P 500 and US 30 have hit all-time highs, and gold has followed suit. So overall, it looks like the economy is doing absolutely amazing up in the US. But these signs, experts fear, might be that the market is expecting a little bit too much of optimistic economy growth. Now, even though there aren't any immediate fears of a recession currently forecast, some experts do fear that the potential for even a little bit of economic slowing, even if it was as little as 1%, could result in as much of a 10% correction in the markets. The markets right now seem to be a little bit too optimistic. The markets don't seem to be pricing in or even considering some of the risks that can affect the US economy right now. These include current geopolitical tensions, which could ignite at any point in time, not to mention that we still don't have a clear indication of what's going to happen with the US elections. There's no clear winner in sight between President Trump and former President Trump and President potentially elect Harris. And depending on who wins that election, we could see some major volatility in the markets. Now, this volatility historically has come after the elections and not before, so we're likely not to see any of this affect the stocks and indices until the results of that election come out. But if we look a little bit closely at this, we have two very different candidates in Trump and Harris, and depending on who wins, the landscape is going to be vastly different. So if we see Harris win the election, we could expect a more moderate fiscal approach. This is likely going to lead to a more stable US dollar in the short and long term, and it is going to also impact geopolitical risks, as there will be a slight less fear of them, and there's going to be slightly less inflation fears if she is likely to win. This is likely to be a status quo remains if Harris comes in. Her policies are likely to be very similar to what current President Joe Biden's policies are, and this would mean that the Democratic Party would stay in power another 4 years. So unlikely for things to shake up too drastically. Conversely, if Trump was to be re-elected, this is going to be a very different approach. Trump's policies are likely to be a lot more aggressive, focusing on tax cuts and deregulation. And if re-elected, this could result in a lot of bearish momentum for the dollar in the short term, because business tends to love Trump. So this election is going to be absolutely pivotal when looking at what's going to happen in the short to medium term future. We also need to consider how which president goes into office is going to affect the Fed and its monetary policy. Now, the Fed has gone on record saying that they're not too worried about which candidate wins the election. They have their own plan, and they're going to work with the president when elected to sort of follow what their game plan is. But the Fed is not the only decision maker when it comes to total economic policy of the country. The president is going to have a large say in what goes on in terms of other policies that will affect the Fed's policies, that are going to affect inflation, that are going to impact overall decisions being made. So between Trump and Harris, there is going to be a lot of swing back and forth as to what the current state of the US dollar is going to look like in the coming years. So this election is going to be a historic event, something to really look at, and it is going to impact the markets quite severely depending on who wins. So if you're looking at capitalizing on some of this volatility when it hits, because we are only a couple weeks away, get yourself a Vault Funder challenge. You can use my code FISA to get 35% off. And if you reckon yourself to be the ultimate trader, you can join the Ultimate Trader competition, which is starting on the 4th of November. Link will be in the description down below. Go ahead and sign up. There will be prizes to be won for the top 3 traders who get the biggest percentage gain. So if you want to get a challenge account and make use of the mentors and coaches who are going to be available to you throughout the competition, now is your chance to prove your merit and become the ultimate trader. Link will be in the description. I have been Eddie Kadeshabe. This has been Traders Next Door, and you have just heard the Daily Scoop.